Hello there, and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I'm your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, and I'm the founder of Utrema Limited, a company that makes fertilizers, biostimulants, and biopesticides for hydroponic growers and conventional growers, people growing in soil as well. And today, I just wanted to contrast a couple of different issues with growing outdoors in soil compared to growing hydroponically indoors in a greenhouse or in a grow room or a vertical farm. The first one is that you might think in Europe, a lot of our food is imported, especially a lot of our fresh produce, things like lettuce, leafy greens, and things like this. Even in Holland, where we think of us having a really big horticulture sector, still the vast majority is imported, and they actually export a lot of leafy greens out of Holland to other markets. Now, what's stopping more farmers growing outdoors? And you might think, oh, well, there's a limit on how much can be grown outdoors, and we're at that limit. And that's why we're having vertical farms producing leafy greens, lettuce, and things like that to fill the gap and try and reduce the amount of imports. However, that's not actually the case. And I've got a number of customers who grow leafy greens and spinach and things like that outdoors in fields. And when I say to them, what stops more farmers doing what you're doing? And the simple answer is, for want of a better word, laziness. And they say that most arable farmers want an easy life, and they don't want to employ lots of people. They don't want to be on the farm during the height of summer when they could be on holiday and between harvest and crop maturation. So arable farming is low number of people and low input, low risk, and so it's an easy life. It's a bit like comparing, sheep farming to dairy farming. Dairies require lots of man hours and lots of people. And so horticulture, in-field horticulture, growing crops in fields, like spring onions or, anything, celery, is a lot of effort and a lot of people, and it's a big business. So that's actually what stops more homegrown inputs, especially in Europe. Don't know what the case is in the US, but it's not a case of maxing out and then we need vertical farms. Whereas large companies are investing in vertical farming, and obviously they don't mind investing in people and systems and things like this. So I think there's a gap in the market for more field-based horticulture in the UK for that perspective. The other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to field production is they are thinking that field-based vegetables, especially lettuce, but also things like Brussels sprouts, in future you'll find a lot more insects on them when you buy them from the supermarket. And they're thinking that consumers are going to have to get used to this and educated on this, especially in Holland and Belgium, where a lot of this research has been done. And they're finding that it's maybe 8 years ago, aphids, what you might call green fly or black fly, if you're not sure what an aphid was, very small, greeny yellow insects that suck the sap of your leaves. They used to be not a problem 8 years ago. And that's because we had a class of chemicals called neonicotinoids, and they were put on the seeds and they protected the plants for life. So with 50 grams of insecticide, you could protect a hectare of vegetables. Now, they were banned in Europe because they are very poisonous to bees. And so the main farmers that outcried about this in the UK were like beet farmers and oilseed rape farmers, but actually it's horticulture and vegetables where it's probably the biggest impact. And so this is going to be an area where hydroponic and indoor crops will actually have a major advantage over field-grown crops in the future and in the next few years. And as the European Union wants to withdraw, not ban, because they never actually ban, withdraw more active ingredients, the situation will only get worse unless we find other natural, chemical-free ways to produce crops. Biocontrol starts to take effect in fields. At the moment, biocontrol is limited mainly to protected cultivation. So that's a big area where hydroponics has a big advantage, because you can exclude the pests completely and more effectively use biocontrol. And then the other major advantage, which I think I've talked about before, is the contamination by microbes and pesticides and other contaminants from the soil, things like heavy metals. Hydroponics has an ability to have improvements there because you're not driving tractors next to the lettuce. You're not having people taking a piss and doing other sorts of nasty things in the field. Maybe, obviously that's not on the standard operating procedure for that crop, but people are more likely to do that than they are in a hydroponics farm, for example. And also, you're not surrounded by soil with its very high, soil has a very high microbial count, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's full of beneficial microbes and it's full of pathogens to humans and pathogens to plants as well. So, and obviously that's one of the reasons for why hydroponics has an advantage. So, as I say, this increasing threat of aphids in Europe could be things that swing maybe purchasers, supermarkets, to look towards more hydroponically grown crops and move away from field grown crops if they're consistently getting complaints and issues with insects in the crop. You might be able to grow an amazing crop and the yield might not be impacted by, say, a caterpillar in the lettuce or an aphid in the lettuce, but the consumer won't care whether your yields and the actual quality has been affected if they're seeing loads of insects. It might be that certain insects are tolerated, like an aphid. It's inconsequential, probably don't see it. But if it was like a black flea beetle or something, or a stink bug or something that was really horrible looking, then they would definitely complain, like a big red caterpillar, for example, a lily beetle, something like that in your crop, then there would definitely be complaints. And so insect control and pest control is not just about controlling yields and virus transfer and quality of crop. It can also be customer perception, and it could be a big win for hydroponics going forwards. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. It's just an opinion piece. Probably have a news piece or a product focus tomorrow. If you found it useful, then please do give an Apple Podcast review. Or if you're not on Apple Podcasts, check out the Eutrema website. And if you can't spell Eutrema, it's Latin for wasabi, which is one of my favourite plants. Hence, I named my company after it. Thank you very much for listening. Until tomorrow, goodbye.